When Battlefield 6 first released, I decided to play the campaign mode after getting through the queue because I didn't want to have to re-queue after changing my graphics settings and everything like that, so I just played the campaign mode. I've finally gotten to spend some time with the multiplayer now. So I've got about 8 hours now on the multiplayer. Figured I'd give my first impressions and everything as soon as possible, so maybe the developers or anybody who hears this can give their 2 cents, get the word to the developers as fast as possible. You know, I'm sure that they scan videos. They have some interns look at videos, even if it's maybe not my video. Maybe I'm parroting some points that some other people are saying. Alright, so I've got a little list right here. I'm just going to read them off. So first off, the visibility, especially going from inside of a building to outside, it just feels like you get flashbanged. It's really hard to see. There's like these beams of light, and it's almost like they go straight for your eyes the moment that you cross that threshold of that door. Another issue is footstep audio. Honestly, like I don't hear somebody coming up to me more often than I do hear them. And like crouch walking, I can understand that. That's completely silent. You know, maybe give them a little bit of sound. Crawling, you know, maybe give them a little bit of sound. But when they're on a full sprint and they're running up behind my back to give me a colonoscopy, I'd like to hear it first. Sometimes I swear I just get spawned in an enemy's line of sight, like I'll squad spawn. I'll even spawn on an objective and it spawns me directly in front of somebody and I just get shot right away. You know, I can understand them wanting to let you spawn if an enemy's not shooting, but if they're aiming directly at where you're spawning, you're gonna get shot anyways. So I'd like to not see that. I even have a clip in this video where I shoot one player and his teammate spawns right behind him right afterwards, and it's like, that probably shouldn't have happened. I would have been mad if I was his teammate. The weapon bloom. The weapon bloom's honestly insane. Sometimes it feels like it kicks in within like 5 bullets and it makes it feel like the game has hit reg issues. It seems like there's too much sway punishment for movement to the extent that it bleeds into the non-movement gameplay. You can step on like a little rock while you're strafing, and if your character doesn't get launched into the air by a physics bug, your aim gets totally thrown off. Rocks in various terrains should not cause such an egregious aim penalty. Enders says the game was better in the beta, and I would agree movement and gunplay wise, because the gunplay feels worse regardless what you think about the movement. It feels like it's to lower the skill gap, but it also feels like it was an overcorrection. I said myself during the beta we didn't want guns to be too beamy, but now the SMGs and ARs feel more on par, only because the bullet spread while shooting. I think the recoil, it feels like they added, was a nice touch. Honestly, it feels like they added some extra recoil, more oomph to the guns. But now it feels like the spread that they added, it feels like there's RNG in your gunfights now. It doesn't feel like you're fully in control. It feels like the gunplay removes some of your player agency. It doesn't feel like you should be getting bloom or weapon spread so early into your clip of shooting your gun. You shouldn't be getting bloom to the extent that you do within the first 10 bullets. It feels like it more so punishes aggressive players than it does the ones that just, you know, it doesn't really hurt Billy Buttfuck the corner or Peter lay on his pussy. You know, it doesn't hurt those guys. It hurts the person who's moving around looking for players. It doesn't hurt the player that's laying down waiting for you to run across their crosshair. I don't think the aggressive playstyle should be completely gutted. I'm not sure the nuances to the spread, whether they want you standing completely still like Counter-Strike. Is the spread kicking in instantly and randomly within the first 5 to 10 rounds of firing? Or does it work in a manageable way where it can completely be controlled by the player with a matter of knowledge and timing? There's supposedly a spread bug that gets activated when sliding, and it doesn't go away until you slide again. If this was a thing in the beta and it's still in the game, it's honestly ridiculous and needs to be looked into, because if it's causing unintended side effects where it's messing up your aim and your gunplay, that's going to be ruining the feeling of the game for a lot of people. Maybe not a lot, but even if it's 10%, that's too much. The visibility is worse than the beta, but I honestly like it more than the Doritos constantly being over your head, constantly getting sniped by people across the map who always know where you are. Something with the lighting definitely needs work though, from going indoors to outdoors, you know, some of their immersion aspects maybe need to be toned down, or at least have a toggle option. Even though the game's not an esport, it is still competitive. People are going to take it seriously, at least to some extent. You don't need to get emotional over it, but everybody wants to win at the end of the day. So I think that's something that they need to look into. The visibility, maybe, you could do something to give more contrast. I know people want immersion. People want to have the soldiers that look believable for the battlefield. I just wonder if there's something they could do maybe with the contrast, or something just to make the soldiers stand out a little bit more. Some people will probably be against that, but I think from a gameplay perspective, more readability is usually better. Overall, those are pretty much the things that I can think of off the top of my head that stand out the most to me. There's probably some other things that are more minor gripes, like, not being able to give every class a smoke grenade. People say then smoke spam would be too bad. But then, I've already gotten beamed through smoke by people with thermal LMGs. I understand it's a delicate balance to make. You don't want to have the whole map covered in smoke grenades. At the same time, I think only allowing support to have the smoke grenades may not be the way to go. I don't know. A lot of the balance in the game feels like it's designed around team play, around squad play. But the fact of the matter is, if you're playing with 4 random players, the coordination is going to be very little to none. You're really lucky if you do get coordination. I've had like 1 or 2 people on the microphone this whole time. I personally never used the mic. I never talked to random people. I'm having a good time with the game. I don't see it quite as doom and gloom as some other people do. But I did want to put this video out with my complaints in hopes that things can get changed sooner than later. Especially with the Battle Royale around the corner. I think the people that are going to want to play that are going to want to have as much of a skill gap as possible within the Battle Royale. It's not going to have to be some crazy skill gap in general like Fortnite with the building, where there's just such a vast skill gap. But I do think that there needs to be something. You don't want it to feel stiff when you already got all these limp dick motherfuckers walking around.